The last time I talked about Tomodachi game was when I made a video a while back in which I compared the main character of that series, Yuuichi, with Ayano Koji from Classroom DLE. Now, I only did that based on what I watched from the anime because Tomodachi game had an anime in the spring season of 2022, and I really enjoyed the series so much that I decided to pick up the manga because I wanted to see what happens after the anime, because the anime only had 12 episodes and it was left in a cliffhanger. So I decided to see what happens after the anime, and after being up to date with the series and waiting for the new chapters to come, I can safely say that Yuuichi is a very terrifying protagonist. The things he does and the things he's capable of doing just goes to show you that Yuuichi is capable of doing anything, even the terrible things, as long as it means that he's going to win or that he's going to get some beneficial from just doing that action. That's the most dangerous thing about Yuuichi. He's capable of doing a lot of things, including very dangerous and very crazy, insane things as well, because for him it doesn't matter. Like I said before, as long as he wins, that's all that matters. Even though Ayano Koji is my favorite MC and I really do enjoy his character, the one thing that Ayano Koji doesn't have that Yuuichi does have is able to manipulate human emotions, because Ayano Koji has no idea how human emotions function because he was never taught that. Because if you didn't know, Ayano Koji spent his entire life in the White Room, and the one thing that the White Room didn't teach Ayano Koji was human emotions because it was seen as unnecessary. But Yuuichi is a different case because he knows how to use people's emotions for his own benefit. It was shown in the anime, but also shown a lot more in the manga, in the arcs in which Yuuichi was capable of seeing through people based on their emotions. Whenever somebody tried to act tough or try to act smarter than Yuuichi, Yuuichi could easily tell that they were lying or they were just completely hiding something just by their reaction when either Yuuichi got under their skin or intimidating them. That's how Yuuichi was able to see through people based on how they reacted, because he is very good at manipulating people's emotions. But not only is he able to manipulate other people's emotions, he's able to do it on himself as well. Yuuichi can act and pretend to be a person that you think that he might be. You see, he can act like he's the most evilest, most dangerous individual, or he can act like he's a weak person who has no idea what's going on and has no idea what he's going to do and has no plan to beat the Tomodachi game. But the people who know Yuuichi very well, especially the people who are watching the Tomodachi game, know that Yuuichi is somebody you cannot simply ignore and could just let your guard down, because he will pretend to be something that he is not, and at that moment, once you let your guard down, he will take full advantage of it and make sure that you go down. And this is something that he does all the time. It's not just once or twice. He does this on every game that he's been up to. Almost every arc of the series, he always behaves and acts differently, and that's because he wants to see what people will think of him. Will they let their guard down around him because he's seen him as a weak person? Or when he's acting tough and dangerous, will the people be focusing only on him? And there he has a chance to see how the people who are participating in the game's minds function. How do they act? How do they behave? What actions do they do? Those are the kind of things Yuuichi is always looking for, because he wants to see how they act and behave so that he can come up with a plan to make a counter attack on them and make sure that they are completely taken down. That is the kind of person Yuuichi is, and this leads to his plans, which is something that also makes Yuuichi very terrifying, is because we don't really know what his plan is until he finally reveals it. The only person who knows his plan is Yuuichi himself, or in some cases where it has shown throughout the series that he does have sometimes allies with him. However, you don't know who is working with Yuuichi until the very end, and that is something that makes the plans very terrifying, is because Yuuichi is a very unpredictable person. Sure, there have been moments where he does hint what his plan is, but that's not always all the time. Most of the time Yuuichi is just silent with his plans and he doesn't really reveal a whole lot until the very end, because it's very crucial, because if his plan is found out, then most likely his plan will fail. And even if his plan does fail, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have other plans. That is something that also makes Yuuichi very interesting, is because we don't know how many plans Yuuichi actually has. He could have one big plan, or he could have multiple plans just in case the first plan fails. That is something that also makes Yuuichi very terrifying, because if the enemy happens to know what Yuichi's plan is, and if they're doing countermeasures to make sure that Yuichi's plan fails, that doesn't mean that they're safe. Yuichi could be having another plan in mind just in case something like that were to happen. Or in some cases, it could be until the very last minute in which it seems that Yuichi has finally been defeated and there's no way he could win, where all of a sudden he reveals that he had another plan all along and that he actually won the game. And the best example I could use was during the gambling arc, which, spoilers by the way, because I am going to spoil things that happened towards the end of the gambling arc, in which there was a final event between Yuichi and another character that's only available in the manga as of right now, named Satone. Satone is very good at gambling, and it seems that this is a person that Yuichi has no chance on beating. But Yuichi decides to take on Satone and gamble with her. Now this game is pretty interesting because Yuichi only says the way Satomu will have to beat him is very simple. The game is in which Yuichi will flip a coin, he'll catch it, and she only needs to just guess which hand has the coin. And this is something that was extremely very interesting because Yuichi actually bet his entire money that he won during this arc, and it seemed that he was very confident that he was going to win. But Satomu guesses correctly at where the coin is, and it seems that Yuichi was defeated, and a lot of the characters of the series were shocked because it was something that they couldn't really understand how Yuichi lost, because they have seen what Yuichi is capable of. They have seen that Yuichi is a very intelligent person, and it's very clear that he does things in order to win no matter what. But in this moment, it seemed that Yuichi was actually defeated, and based on how he was expressing himself, it showed that he was actually defeated. Like, he couldn't believe himself that he was defeated. And just when it seems that it was actually a case of Yuichi finally being defeated for the first time, at the very last minute, his plan is finally revealed, in which it shows that he actually won the entire time. Now, I'm not gonna go further because I highly recommend you actually read the manga, because it's actually very interesting what happens. But yeah, that's just one example that goes to show you that you shouldn't let your guard down around Yuichi, especially when he's planning something, because you don't know what he's capable of. Because at the very last moment, for example, in this case, he showed that everything was going according to his plan, a plan that not a lot of the characters of the series were expecting in that situation. But it showed how Yuichi was actually capable of fooling everyone and actually win. But it doesn't mean that all his plans aren't insane. There have been moments in which Yuichi has had some insane plans that even the people around him, his friends, most of the time couldn't believe that this is a plan that Yuichi actually wanted to go through. And for example, the best example that I can show is during the trial arc, in which in order to save Shibei, one of their other friends, from going to jail after being accused of murdering his father, along with other accusations being thrown at him, Yuichi and his friends needed to collect the votes of the jury, which were their classmates from school, in which the votes were in the form of money, because this was the money that the people from Tomodachi game gave to Yuichi's classmates. Because if you read the manga or have actually watched the first season of the anime, you would know that Yuichi's class gave money in order for the field trip that they were about to have, but then it was stolen. So now Yuichi has to come up with a way in order to get that money in order to set Shibei free. But there was actually a few problems Yuichi had to face. One of them being is that the class actually knew about the Shibei accusations being thrown at him, and they thought that he was a garbage human being. The other problem is that they were actually running out of time, because they were given a time limit as to how long they had until they were able to set Shibei free, because once the timer ran out, Shibei will be found guilty for all the crimes he was accused of and will be sent to jail. So Yuichi thought that drastic times equal drastic measures, so he decided to make a plan that pretty much was going to affect a lot of people. He decided to do a plan that involved doing wire transfer scams. Basically, what this means is that Yuichi was going to scam his classmates in order to get the money in order to save Shibei. At first, Kokorogi and Tenji are shocked that this is a plan that Yuichi wants to do, and even Tenji disagrees with this plan, saying how this is going to hurt a lot of people. But Yuichi doesn't care because he's not going to get affected by it, because this is something that he has to do if they want to help Shibei get free, showing us that when drastic times happen, Yuichi is capable of doing a lot of things in order to win. Even if it means hurting other people, he is going to do it, because as long as he wins, that's all that matters. Now later on it's revealed that this plan actually doesn't happen, because then there's another plan that is used in order to set Shibei free, which I'm not going to go over because it's really long, and also because I highly recommend you actually read this series. But just know that it's an actual plan that Yuichi thought of. But even though I just said many things as to what makes Yuichi terrifying, and just goes to show how much of an insane person Yuichi is, what makes Yuichi very interesting is how he also has a very genuine side in which he actually does care about his friends. He actually does want to help his friends out. This isn't something that he says because he has to or that he's faking it. It has been shown throughout the series that Yuichi actually does care about his friends, because he believes that friends are something important to him. But with that in mind, he also makes it very clear that if someone does want to be his enemy, then he's not going to hold back, because he is going to take down anybody that is an enemy. And the best example I can use is when Shibei actually betrays Yuichi and his group into being on the other side of the enemies. And there is a reason for this, but if I was to explain everything, we'd be here all day. But just know that Shibei does betray Yuichi, but Yuichi asks Shibei very clearly if that's what he wants. Does he want to be his enemy? But the way he said it, you can clearly tell that Yuichi was not playing playing around. If Shibe actually does want to be his enemy, then Yuichi isn't going to hold back, because now he considers Shibe an enemy for betraying him. And that just goes to show you that whoever plans on being enemies with Yuichi is very clearly not going to hold back, and they should actually be on guard as whenever they're around Yuichi, because you don't really know what Yuichi is going to do, because he's that unpredictable. And that's the scariest thing about Yuichi. He's not only good at making plans, he's not only good at manipulating people by their emotions, but he's also somebody that is very unpredictable. And that is what makes Yuichi such a terrifying protagonist, because you don't really know what to expect with this character. There's a lot of things he could do, and even as of right now, because I am up to date with the manga, there's still a lot of questions about Yuichi. There's still a lot of things I want to know more about Yuichi, and there's so many things I want to see Yuichi do, because you just know that he's going to do something in order to beat the Tomodachi game, because his main goal is destroying the Tomodachi game. That is his ultimate goal. So you want to see what he's planning on doing and how he's going to do that. And that is why Tomodachi game has become one of my other favorite series to read. I really do enjoy this series, and I really do hope that in the near future there is a season 2 for this series, because there's a lot of moments and a lot of arcs that I want to be animated, and I really do hope that in the near future there is an announcement that season 2 is on its way, because this series is great. This series does deserve to have a second season, because the first season was great and it got a lot of good feedback. So hopefully there's a season 2, but only time will tell. And with that, that's pretty much the entire video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.